Michelle Malkin is a Newsmax family member. Welcome. Your show starts in a couple of weeks on Saturdays. She's also the famous columnist, syndicated columnist and author, well-known conservative. Michelle, the last time we spoke, it wasn't a done deal, but it is. Congratulations. Welcome. Anything you can say about your show yet?
Yeah, but we'll get started really soon. I can tell you that I'll be hammering on all of my favorite topics, but especially on America First topics and making sure that citizens are informed so that they know what they need to know in order to act in defense of our country.
Okay, sounds terrific. Looking forward to it. I also know you, as well as I, mainstream media critic. They seem to have not learned any lessons. I thought that there would be an overhaul after 2016. They got everything wrong. Let's start with the New York Times. Big editorial about the military. And does the military celebrate white supremacy? I mean, it is an absurd headline. I know you have military roots. I served in the military. It is probably the least race-conscious institution in the country. Your reaction to that story?
Of all days, to smear the legacy of generations of American men and women who gave their lives in service to our country. Of all days, for the New York Times, which I used to call the fish wrap of record, but that's an insult to fish wrap, right, Greg? Of all days, for them to pick this day to smear the legacy and the memory of those who sacrificed. This is, of course, on purpose. This is purposeful, to foment hatred, to foment division. And it will only work among those who are ignorant. If, of course, many of your viewers out there in the fan base of Newsmax and my many, many readers over the years understand that the history of a Memorial Day has its roots in the reconciliation between Union and Confederate soldiers. It was widows and wives and mothers and grandmothers of largely Confederate soldiers who were laying decorations at the grave sites of Confederate soldiers, and then also extended the grace of doing so for Union soldiers. And that reconciliation is something that the New York Times does not accept. Right? They're not going to be satisfied until they wipe out every last vestige of the existence of what happened in the Civil War, until they rewrite it all. Yeah. And you know, every war memorial, of course, is going to be wiped off the face of the earth. They won't be satisfied until that time. I
spent 9 years on active duty, went through Fort Benning a lot. I never gave any consideration to what Benning was or who it was. Apparently, he was a controversial figure by today's standards. Welcome to Fort Benning. Benning is a person who existed, but very interestingly, and there he is, and he was pro-slavery and a lot of things that nobody is right now. But you know who had a grand experience on Fort Benning and never had a problem with the name of the base? Colin Powell. Colin Powell went on to become a general. He's mentioned briefly in the piece, but he actually noticed how civil things were on base, how he was treated like a person, whereas he was borderline subhuman every time he stepped off of Fort Benning. I think that's kind of an important thing to point out, and the military doesn't get enough credit for what they've done to desegregate their own ranks.
Yeah, that's right. And the true colors of the New York Times come out on the most patriotic of holidays. They reject the idea of a historic American nation. They're anti-military, they're anti-white, they're anti-American. And look, they employ editorial writers like this infamous editorial writer, Sarah Jeong, who got promoted, who got a job at the most prestigious editorial board in the country by tweeting things such as, "I get pleasure out of being cruel to old white men."
I remember that controversy. Don't tell me she's still working there. Is she?
She probably wrote this editorial, Greg.
I remember those comments. I was appalled, but white men are fair game, by the way, and a lot of other constituencies as well. Hey, by the way, the new press secretary, Kayleigh McEnany, I always have trouble with her last name. She has proved to be brilliant. She fires back. That is driving some members of the mainstream press corps and even, by the way, the right-wing media a little bit nuts. Check this out.
What Donald Trump wants in a press secretary is a Twitter troll who goes on attack, doesn't actually care about doing the job they have, and instead wants to impress an audience of one.
Kayleigh has impressed far more than an audience of one. She is dazzling just about everybody who watches those, and she's turned the table on the reporters who, by the way, deserve it, in my opinion. Michelle?
She's tough as nails. She's brilliant. She's an Ivy League educated lawyer, and she supports America first. And this gets under the skin of decrepit and deplorable Beltway creatures such as Jonah Goldberg. And all you have to do is compare his educational achievements to hers and to compare her career achievements to his. And it tells you everything you need to know about the petty jealousy, and yes, I would say misogyny. You know, Greg, I'm not one to be pulling the gender or sexism card. I certainly reject that kind of identity politics, but it makes you wonder here. And there's something else, because he went on Twitter afterwards to defend himself, and he said that what she did was a shtick, and that the only reason that she has her job is because she wanted to be famous. This is the most disgusting attack. You hear it a lot from what I call Conservatism Inc., that somehow because we make a living standing for our principles, that we're the ones that are grifters. Why doesn't he aim that kind of hatred to his own boss, Rich Lowry, who was the one who published the Never Trump National Review cover? And I know this because he called me to sign on to it. I refused to do so. And now Rich Lowry is retweeted regularly by President Trump.
Oh, Rich Lowry. Oh, Rich Lowry I like. I must say, I know, look, there were a lot of never-Trumpers who evolved, but I don't want to get between Jonah and his boss. I thought that was a terrible moment for him, and it's ironic. He's on TV saying, oh, she just wants to be on television and famous and well-known. That doesn't, that doesn't hold up.
That's called psychological projection, Greg.
Okay. Michelle Malkin, Newsmax staff member, anchor. Show coming very, very soon. Check your listings, and I'll be talking about it here. To be continued, Michelle. Thanks a lot.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing news channel, now in 65 million homes. Get Newsmax TV on all the major cable systems or go to newsmaxtv.com and click on the Find Newsmax tab to locate us. Remember, Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.